It says to start my video, but that started already, right?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, good. Now we are on air. Here is Michelle, and now your turn. You're on air, and you're going to speak. Michelle, you can share the screen if you wish, if you have the presentation. The stage is yours.
Yeah, so you have, can you see it at the moment?
Yeah, no, I'm not see the presentation. I see your face and I see how you're talking.
Okay. I have started to share it, so I hope that's visible.
Not visible yet?
Okay, 1 second. I have no idea what's going on here. Right, share. Desktop. Should seeing it. Can you see it?
No. Yeah, now it's good. It's working. Okay, go ahead. You're online.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's well. We had a few problems in terms of connection, and I hope you can kind of hear me clearly and see me clearly. Apologies for the delay. It's a real pleasure to join you today. I'm here to really talk a little bit more around my journey around blockchain, and then what I think around digitization and where we're heading, with digitization as a whole, but also in terms of blockchain as well. So thanks very much for having me here. It's a real pleasure. So where do we start? Why digitize? I suppose people will be asking me, I've had lots of people asking me questions around, why digitize? Why do we focus so much around the digital side of things? I think, kind of given the current circumstances, with the challenges that we're having with COVID-19, the massive impact that has had on all global economies, it's a really good example as to why we should digitize, and it's absolutely crucial, I think, to look at elements of digitization and what that actually means for societies as we move ahead. So why digitize? I think in terms of obviously improving connectivity and access for different global economies, I think is very, very vital that we try and look at, how we digitize, but also in terms of accessing new markets and supporting the development of new markets, particularly now with the challenges that we're having with COVID-19. I mean, it doesn't really matter what country or city you're in, there are massive challenges. So opportunities to diversify and look at new markets, I think is really, really crucial moving forward. Of course, converged innovations, you have a whole range of, really innovative technologies that are coming to fore at the moment and are really starting to grow and expand and being utilized. So it's really important, I think, we start to look at the innovation side of things and how we start to looking at, convergence as well. Now, in terms of demographics, shifts in terms of demographics, of course, in different parts of the world. I mean, what is going to be the impact of COVID-19 as a result of, the demographic shifts in different countries? What is going to be the impact around that? Are we looking at data to try and understand what the impact of demographics will be moving forward? Very, very important. By the end of the day, it's about, kind of reinventing, and creating new business models and really leveraging data and a whole range of other things to create those new business models as we move ahead. Digitization is core in so many levels on supply chain and a whole range of other areas. But it is important that, we look at the different stages of development around digitization, and these will vary in different countries. Certainly from my experience, that's what I've seen. Now, in terms of examples of disruptive technologies, obviously massive disruption.
Just please turn off your online video on another device because we are hearing you twice.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now it works. Yes, but your microphone here is turned off. Turn it on and go ahead.
Better?
Yes, now it works. Okay. But I hear me once more time. What's going on your side?
Nothing at all. It's quite quiet from my end.
I hear myself.
Right. Is it echoing? from your end? Nothing at all. It's quite quiet from my end.
Okay, no problem. Because from my side is no echo. It's impossible. Okay, go ahead, Michelle. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's all right. So yeah, as I was saying, I mean, there are various, range of different technologies at the moment that we can leverage and we can tap on, a lot in terms of looking at COVID and the challenges we've had there. Obviously, a lot of companies have been investing in utilizing, technologies like 3D printing for masks and the whole range of other, face shields and other things to, to mitigate against the virus. So AI, of course, has been utilized by many companies and startups as well, sort of combining AI and blockchain to look at solutions that can help to mitigate against the virus as well. But more generically, I mean, even apart from the virus, I think as we move forward, we're going to see a lot more usage of these combinations of technologies. Apology, this seems to have been, and of course we're living in a digital world. As you can see, millions and billions of users, for example, are using social media, are looking at sort of, active internet users, but this is going to evolve as we progress. There'll be loads of sort of the total population and their engagement with digital is shifting daily. Yes, the pandemic has increased that engagement, digitally, but we're going to see a lot more usage, I think, of digitization as a whole as we move forward, be it around things like platforms and a whole range of other areas. Blockchain. Now, this is an area that I have been looking at for quite some time now. There is definitely a lot more movement now in terms of the blockchain space. I think in the early days where people kind of associated blockchain more so with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, I think we're slightly starting to evolve and starting to see enterprise models really coming to fore, looking at sort of supply chain solutions coming to fore, looking at innovations around farming, agriculture and agribusiness, in developing countries as well is very, very exciting to see, to see this industry starting to really grow. Of course, you're going to start seeing a little bit more, fragmentation as well, as you notice the kind of smaller players kind of leaving the market and maybe the more established players who've done a lot more research and development remain into the marketplace. So you see a little bit of a shift there, I think, as we move ahead. So in terms of investment, there's been a huge amount of investment into the blockchain space, especially around sort of the startup phase. I think what I would like to see a little bit more of is actually investment into more women-led, blockchain businesses and supporting more women who are coming into the space. In fact, encouraging a lot more women to come into this space. We all know what the main benefits of blockchain are. And really ultimately at the end of the day, that tool or, that enabler blockchain that creates that trust and that transparency in terms of, conducting transactions, I think is very, very critical. But at the end of the day, I think we need to start to invest a little bit more into the research and development and really trying to understand those use cases that have either kind of come into life and how we start to drive those forward. How do we invest a little bit more into those use cases and develop, sectors? And then from developing sectors, you also, the sectors are also influencing starting to grow economies as well, which is absolutely fundamental. So in terms of investment, yes, there's quite a lot of investment. I think that's going to shift slightly in the short term, obviously because of the challenges that COVID has brought in. I mean, investors will be very, very cautious about where they place their money and there'll be a lot of challenges around, okay, how do we kind of secure the right funding? But I think technology as a whole, or the tech sector, will very much still be, an area that investors will be very, very interested in. The challenges around things like liquidity, the challenges around sort of cross-border lending, the challenges around sort of digital assets, all that is going to come to fore as we move forward. Now, use cases in terms of, for example, government use cases, I've been very more involved around sort of the government side and what different governments have been doing around the world. I mean, these are just examples of things that are happening in different parts of the world. I've been involved quite a lot from the Bermuda side, where the government is very, very much championing the fintech ecosystem and starting to build up really innovative solutions around the country, but also in the lens of trying to support people. So also the upskilling argument, building skills, supporting skills, especially tech skills, sort of data scientists and a whole range of others. Very, very important, I think, to invest into the skill set. But countries are certainly doing a lot and starting to look at blockchain quite heavily. China is one of the countries that, of course, is very much pushing, pushing ahead around blockchain, and is really set forward a very strategic plan in terms of implementing blockchain for the country and supporting blockchain growth and development, which is very, very interesting. And I think you will see quite a lot of action, coming from not necessarily just blockchain, but in terms of technology as a whole, be it quantum, AI and blockchain. You see quite a lot of activity, I think, from the China side. It'll be interesting to kind of see what happens beyond, obviously, the COVID crisis. It's a huge challenge at the moment, and the focus at the moment is very much on the crisis. But it'll be interesting to see how these technologies, take shape as we move forward in the different countries. And certainly in the context of Africa, I think, it's really important to flag this, page, because at the end of the day, I think Africa is one of those areas where you're going to see a lot of potential growth, but that is very much a huge caveat around that because of the challenges we're seeing today. When you're thinking in terms of the impact of COVID, might not have huge numbers of people affected by COVID in Africa, but at the same time we don't really we can't really tell 100% what the numbers look like as well if you start to look at things like data and how data collection and all that is conducted and measured. So very, very heavy caveat there, but they sort of the impacts that fall out of COVID-19 are pretty significant for the continent of Africa, and it's important we start to mitigate around those by investing in the right places, really supporting the SMEs, and the free trade area is very much set forward to try and do that by opening up supply chains, supporting digital trade and e-trade across the continent. So very, very exciting, I think, in terms of what will come out of Africa, but we have to be very careful that we mitigate the impacts as a result of COVID, especially in terms of, looking at budgets and financing, which again has been a challenge. There's been a huge effort from other parts of the world to obviously support, but I think there also has to be a, sort of internally driven investment that is also channeled into the continent as well. But a huge opportunity in terms of the blockchain and crypto space, huge opportunity to actually grow that marketplace in Africa, I think. Of course, challenges around sort of trading system and the digital trade, especially now with COVID, I've highlighted a little bit, fragmentation as well will have some impacts there. But, huge opportunities, I think, around sort of value chains and what you can do there and trading and doing business in Africa, I think will become more and more prominent as markets open and ease up as well. So yeah, what other opportunities do we have? I mean, in the space, of course, decentralized finance is taking a lot of, prominence as well. Loads of people around the world have no means of access to finance. And I think this market is starting to tailor, its packaging and its offering towards around, people like that, cross-border trade deals as well, where you can actually start being very creative and innovative around the offerings that you're giving around, cross-border trade as well, which is very, very exciting. So I think I'm quite excited around, what happens with decentralized finance and how that heads down and the different packages that are coming out, that are layered up on top of the blockchain as a result of decentralized finance.
Michelle, please, we don't have so much time. A little bit faster.
Sure. I know we started very late, so I will just rush off, finish off the slides. But a lot of it was DeFi. I'll leave this. I'm sure you can kind of cover. The other thing I really wanted to point out was, of course, the interest around sort of central bank digital currencies and what's happening with that. You can look at the slides afterwards, and heavy engagement in different countries as well. We're looking at sort of reporting into Bank of England at the moment as well, even here, to look at what the impact will be, and what the impact can be as a result of investing in central bank digital currencies. So I won't spend too much time on that. Again, I have highlighted this very, very quickly. With this mix, I think is very, very important. We'll start to see some traction. It won't be blockchain in isolation, but a whole combination of different technologies and which will address different areas, including things like infrastructure. And then that maturing of the digital platforms as well is something that we'll start to see. to happen, of course. And then, kind of a final note, it's a pity that we didn't have time. Obviously, we had technical issues here, but I think I would have liked to really flag in terms of the importance of encouraging more talent, more diversity into the blockchain space. Women have a huge role to play, for example. And in fact, I love that I'm seeing so many more women coming into this space, and that's fantastic. And we need to really start to invest a lot more in really promoting that and shouting that. I'll leave it as that. I'm really sorry that it was a bit rushed, but certainly you can get in touch with me if you would like to have a longer conversation, and I can talk you through some of my experiences more globally. We just didn't have time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. Perfect speech. Thank you. Now we are clearly understand how women's impact is over the world in your perspective as well. Michelle, I have to say you goodbye. Our time is over. It's very good and interesting speech. See you a little bit later again. Yes, now we go out of the air, and now our next panel is coming.
Sure.
Michelle, bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks a lot.